In the winter of 1959, deep within the remote Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, 9 young hikers set out on what should have been an exhilarating winter expedition. Their goal was to traverse some of the most isolated peaks in the northern Urals, testing their endurance, skill, and courage. What happened during that journey, however, would become one of the most enduring and perplexing mysteries of the 20th century. The question has haunted historians, scientists, and adventurers for more than 6 decades. What force could have caused these experienced hikers to abandon their tent in the dead of night, fleeing barefoot into sub-zero temperatures, only to meet tragic ends under circumstances that remain largely unexplained? Was it simply nature's fury, a freak accident, or something far more sinister lurking in the shadows of the frozen wilderness? Join us as we recount the chilling and mysterious story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. On January 23, 1959, 10 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Sverdlovsk set out on a journey that would take them deep into the northern Urals. Their destination was Mount Otorten, a remote peak that few had dared to climb in winter conditions. At the head of the group was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, an experienced and disciplined mountaineer admired by his peers for both skill and leadership. The group consisted of 9 other young adventurers: Zenaida Kolmogorova, Rustem Slobodin, Yuri Krivonishenko, Alexander Kolevatov, Ludmila Dubinina, Yuri Doroshenko, Nikolai Thibaut Brignoles, Semyon Zolotaryov, and Yuri Yudin. The students were well prepared, experienced, and eager for the challenge. They carried with them winter camping equipment, skis, tents, and supplies calculated for the harshest conditions they expected to encounter. Yet fate intervened almost immediately. Yuri Yudin, one of the hikers, fell ill early in the journey. Though determined, he was forced to turn back, returning to civilization while the others pressed onward. He would go on to become the only survivor of the expedition, later saying, "If I had known what was going to happen, I would never have left them." From that moment, the remaining 9 hikers continued their trek into the snowy wilderness. They crossed frozen rivers, navigated dense forests, and climbed steep slopes under temperatures dropping as low as -30 degrees Celsius. The harsh conditions tested their skill, endurance, and courage, but the group's camaraderie remained strong. Photographs recovered later showed them smiling, joking, and laughing together, young people determined to conquer the mountain despite nature's indifference. By February 1st, the group reached the slopes of a mountain the local Mansi people called Holatsiakil, which translates ominously to Mountain of the Dead. For reasons that remain unclear, Dyatlov decided to set up their tent on an exposed slope rather than descending into the sheltered forest below, where the trees could have offered protection from the bitter wind. This decision would prove fatal. The hikers pitched their tent and settled in for the night. Their last diary entries and photographs show a group in good spirits, unaware that within hours, a sequence of events would lead to their deaths and the creation of one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of modern history. When the group failed to return at the scheduled time, concern among their families and the authorities grew. Initially, delays in such expeditions were common. Winter weather was unpredictable. Snow and wind could slow even experienced hikers, and communication was limited. But as days passed without word, alarm turned to urgency. By February 20th, search parties were organized. Soldiers, volunteers, and fellow students combed the icy forests and snow-covered slopes. Visibility was limited. The wind tore through the trees, and the snow blanketed all tracks within hours. The conditions were harsh, unrelenting, and unforgiving. It wasn't until February 26th that the search teams discovered the first sign of the missing hikers, their tent, half buried in snow and torn open from the inside. It leaned to one side, the fabric slashed as though cut in a hurry. Inside, the hikers' belongings remained undisturbed. Boots, jackets, food, and cameras were still neatly arranged, giving the impression of a sudden, almost inexplicable flight into the unknown. Footprints led away from the tent, some barefoot, others wearing only socks, heading down toward the forest below. Nearby, the first two bodies were found beside the remains of a small fire. Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko had attempted to seek warmth and safety, their bodies positioned in a way that suggested they had been trying to survive the freezing night. Branches above the small clearing were broken, indicating desperate movements, likely from climbing to see the tent or scout the area for help. A short distance away, 3 more hikers were discovered, lying in positions suggesting they were crawling or stumbling back toward the tent. Their clothing had shifted, partially layered over each other, indicating efforts to stay warm against the extreme cold. It would be 2 more months before the remaining 4 were located, buried under snow deeper in a nearby ravine. Their clothing arrangements showed similar patterns, jackets and coats shared or layered in attempts to preserve warmth. While some sustained injuries consistent with impacts from falls or collisions with trees or rocks, there were no signs of struggle with another human or animal, and no footprints leading to or from the site, aside from the hikers themselves. The Soviet authorities opened an official investigation. Their findings were perplexing. The hikers had fled the tent in the night, but no obvious reason could be identified. Some injuries were consistent with accidental impacts, but the sequence of events remained confusing. The tent's interior had been cut open, as though the hikers had feared something inside or nearby. Tracks in the snow confirmed their panic, yet no external presence, no animals, no strangers could be found. The official conclusion stated that the hikers had succumbed to a compelling natural force, but the vagueness of the term left space for speculation, mystery, and legend. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged. Some suggest that a small avalanche startled the group, forcing them to abandon the tent in haste. Others argue that katabatic winds or microbursts, sudden gusts of wind caused by weather conditions, could have created panic and confusion, leading them into the forest. Eyewitnesses from nearby villages reported strange lights in the sky on the night of the disappearance. Some photographs taken by the hikers appeared to show glowing orbs moving among the trees. Were these natural phenomena, distant atmospheric events, military tests, or something entirely unexplained? The local Mansi people, indigenous to the area, long considered Kolatsiak a dangerous and cursed mountain. Legends spoke of spirits and forces that claimed those who dared to disturb the slopes. The hikers, though experienced and prepared, would unknowingly become part of these tales, their fate adding to the mountain's mystique. The recovered diaries and photographs provide a haunting glimpse into the final days of the hikers. Their photos show laughter and camaraderie, yet the final entries include references to unusual lights and even a cryptic phrase, "We now know snowmen exist." Was it a joke, a note in jest, or a frightened observation of something they could not understand? The mystery only deepened as researchers analyzed the details. Some proposed infrasound, low-frequency sound waves created by wind or geological activity, could have induced fear, disorientation, and panic among the hikers. Others suggested the victims were startled by an avalanche or snow slab, although the slope was relatively gentle and the snowpack conditions made this unlikely. Military tests, secret experiments, and even extraterrestrial theories were floated over the years, yet no explanation fully accounted for every detail: the internal injuries, the layering and swapping of clothing, the tent slashed from the inside, and the strange lights in the night sky. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case and concluded that a small avalanche had caused the hikers to flee the tent, but experts noted that the slope and conditions did not match the type of avalanche capable of such a reaction, leaving the incident open to speculation. Today,
Dyatlov Pass remains quiet and snow-covered. Wooden crosses mark the approximate locations where the hikers were found. Visitors and researchers travel to the site each year to honor the memory of the young adventurers and to study the events that occurred that night. The names of the hikers are remembered: Yuri Dyatlov, Zenaida Kolmogorova, Ludmila Dubinina, Rustem Slobotin, Yuri Krivonyshenko, Yuri Doroshenko, Alexander Kolevatov, Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles, and Semyon Zolotarov. Their story is not just a tale of tragedy, but a reminder of the power of nature, the unpredictability of the wilderness, and the fragility of human life. Yuri Yudin, the only survivor, carried the memory of his friends for the rest of his life. He collected photographs, diaries, and reports, always seeking answers. Before his death in 2013, he admitted, "I still don't know what killed my friends, but I know it was not an avalanche." Decades later, the Dyatlov Pass remains one of the most enduring mysteries of modern history. Visitors to the mountain can still feel the cold wind sweeping across the slopes, as if whispering secrets the mountain has held for more than 60 years. The hikers' courage, their laughter, and their spirit live on, even as the circumstances of their deaths remain uncertain. The mountain stands silent, the snow drifts endlessly, and the mystery endures. What truly happened that February night in 1959? Was it an act of nature, a freak accident, or something that transcends explanation? No one truly knows. As the wind rustles through the empty slopes and across the icy forests, the story of the Dyatlov Pass continues to captivate, intrigue, and chill those who hear it, a haunting reminder of the unknown that still lies hidden in the remote corners of the world.